Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike
go.
Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we are back on Memorial Weekend. Plenty to talk about with the Ducks and the NHL and covering everything. Before we get into the show, I just want to thank everybody that listens out there that is a member of the military or even a veteran, just like Eddie Richard. As you know, a lot of my family too served in the armed forces as well. So I just want to give a big shout out. We got that 3-day weekend. I want to thank all the Patriots out there for everything that they've done. And I want to thank you too, Eddie. I know you did your service as well, and it's much appreciated.
Oh, I appreciate that. You never have to thank me for that. I appreciate the support though, and I do want to give a shout out to everyone that served, all my brothers and sisters, especially ones that aren't here and that lost their lives, whether it was in battle or if they had a battle their other demons after the military. And I also want to send a shout out to all the family members and friends of our service members too, because I know it puts a strain on some of you guys, and it's not easy seeing your loved one go away for time after time, and then they come back and then they might be a little different or just not the same anymore. So I want to give a shout out to you guys and stuff that you sacrifice for them as well. But I hope everyone enjoys this Memorial Day weekend and just really puts in the front of their mind of what this weekend's all about. It's not just about barbecues and getting lit, even though that's fun. It's about barbecues and getting lit and thanking the people that make this possible, because a lot of those people from past wars are the reasons why we have this freedom. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this weekend, I guess the last week you did something a little bit different. Not different for you, I guess, but you went out and got a new tattoo with the Joker from the latest movie. And I thought that was very interesting because you talked about, mental health and things like that. Obviously, it ties into the military and people with PTSD and all of that as well. But I thought that was a very interesting tattoo, Eddie, because it kind of puts all that stuff together and puts it in perspective.
Yeah, this is like my second part of a 3-part Joker tattoo. I got one of the mouth of Jared Leto's Joker, and I have Joaquin Phoenix, and next is the Heath Ledger one, which I'm really excited about. He was my favorite Joker. I like the Joker character. I'm not crazy where I want to go blow things up and paint I probably paint my face maybe, but not blow things up or anything like that. So it's something I like, and with me, it's funny. Like I mentioned it before. Like I grew up never wanting tattoos at all. They never intrigued me, and I got my first one. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm just gonna get that one. Like I don't want any. It took me a few years to get more, and then after I started getting more, it just became kind of an addiction. I had a friend that's a badass tattoo artist, and he would tap me up, so that was fine. And then I went to the military. I always said in my mind, I don't want tattoos that I can't cover up with the short sleeve shirt. When I went to the military and they were like, okay, we have a new policy where you can't have any tattoos by a certain date, but if you have them prior to that, you're grandfathered in. So it's like, I took that as a challenge, I guess, and I started getting a lot more. So it's like, now I'm like kind of covered, but yeah, this one was just a second part of it, and I think it's good. I had a good artist, Covina Tattoo Company, David, really cool guy, and he's really badass artist. I'm looking forward to getting my other ones, and I don't think I'm going to stop getting tattoos. I have a rule for myself. I will never get a hand tattoo or neck tattoo or like any tattoos that don't cover in a long sleeve shirt. So if any of you listeners or anyone sees me with a neck tattoo or a hand tattoo, just know I won the lottery. I don't care at that point.
And something that people may not know is that Eddie has a whole bunch of tattoos. I know you posted different things on social media and whatnot, Twitter and Facebook and other platforms and whatever. But here's something you may not know. I have 0 tattoos.
Yes.
0. And I'm not saying that like I'm against tattoos. Nothing against that at all. It's just funny because, this is one thing. Eddie and I are very similar in a lot of ways, but different in certain ways. And this is one where we're a little bit different. Eddie's got a bunch, chest, both his arms, everything like that, his back, things like that. I have none. I'm not against them. I don't know. I think maybe like you said, Eddie, maybe if I get one and I know what I want that first one to be. And maybe it might be like a snowball effect, and I'll get more after that. But I haven't decided yet, man. But I live vicariously through you and all your photos and things that you post.
Oh, yeah, these tattoos are getting rough. It's like 10 years ago when I was younger, I could sit through the pain. It's just, it's a different kind of pain now because you're older, I guess. I don't know why, or maybe it's just psychological. But I like part of my tattoo on Friday was the elbow, and that was hell. But I really think I'm a tough person and I'm strong. But you know what? Getting your elbow tattooed and then getting my sternum a few weeks ago, it just really proved to me that hell no, I'm not as tough as I think. Because I was like, I even told my guy, I was like, bro, he goes, you're in pain, huh? I'm like, yeah, why do you think I just stopped talking? I was all quiet. It's like, it's crazy. But you know what? It's fun. It's art. I kind of like it. I like the fact that I'm getting a tattoo. I don't think of any stress. I don't think of my problems. I don't think of bills. I don't think of anything besides just sitting there and enjoying that moment and getting tattooed. So I guess it's a win-win for everyone. But I was talking to you offline too, and there's one thing we do have in common is the whole needle part. I absolutely hate needles, and I have a fear of needles. So it's funny and ironic that all these tattoos and I'm afraid of needles. It's funny to tell these nurses when they draw my blood sometimes when I have my physicals that I'm all afraid of needles when I have all these tattoos. So I think that's pretty funny.
No, I'm with you. That's the one thing about the needles. I guess that's probably why I haven't done it so far. So, but yeah, if you haven't checked it out, look at Eddie's Facebook and Twitter and other accounts. He posts photos on there. You can see all the stuff he's done. Some really good artwork and whatnot. So, with that, we'll dive into the Ducks and the NHL and everything that's going on. We got the playoffs. The Ducks brought in someone to help replace McNabb that retired. We have the Murray press conference, which Eddie and I have a lot to talk about on that. We're going to give our picks for the expansion draft and how the Ducks may set their configuration up. So we're going to talk about that. And plenty of fan questions. So a lot to get to. So in the last couple weeks, the Ducks had McNabb retire from the team. They then brought in Jeff Solomon from the LA Kings. He was the one that had been there basically before the two cups, helped them win the two Stanley Cups. The man's actually an attorney, has a good analytical background, was a sports agent for several years. So before the free agency and the draft and all that, the Ducks actually make a move, quote unquote, and they bring him in. Posted an article on that if you missed it. But Eddie, what do you think? What are your initial thoughts of bringing this guy in? I mean, he won 2 Stanley Cups with the Kings. You have McNabb, who was a wealth of knowledge in the league. And now this guy comes in kind of with a variety of a background, legal and sports agent, contract knowledge, and things like that. What's your read on this?
I don't know. It sounds like a potential future GM for the Ducks. I don't know what is his good background. Hopefully he helps, but we all know who we have in charge. Is he really going to pay attention to this guy's expertise and whatever he throws out there? It's just kind of one of those things where you have to wait and see. Maybe this was a move, foreshadowing future events. We know Murray's contract isn't forever. It's going to be up soon. So maybe this is another person that was kind of promised a role if he signed up with the Ducks. Possibly, who knows? Or if not, maybe he just likes California and doesn't want to leave, and the Ducks offered him an opportunity to stay, and he took it. I don't know. I just if he can help the Ducks and help what's going on in this tragedy, and I think you mentioned too in your article about maybe being a voice in Murray's ear and kind of can change his direction a little bit to help the Ducks be more competitive. Then I'm all for it. And reading up on this, it doesn't seem like a bad signing at all for the Ducks. I think this is probably one of the best ones they've had so far. It's a good start, so hopefully they can continue upwards in this direction.
Yeah, I think it's good to bring him in, and Murray talked about him in his press conference that he had just this last week, and we're going to dive into all of that. Of course, you all know, as Eddie kind of alluded to, Murray said that he's coming back next season. He said Dallas Eakins is coming back next season. Of course, that drew the ire of many people, understandably so. With that news, we know that both of them have one more year left on their contract. And then he also said that he's been talking to Getzlaf and trying to figure out how that's all going to work out as well. We did discuss Getzlaf on the last show if you missed it at that time, and as of this recording, May 30th, we're still hearing that Getzlaf's planning to come back to the Ducks. We don't know the term or how much money and whatnot, but that part hasn't changed, whether you like it or not. We had a fan question about that too from Brian X BOZ. He asked, our thoughts on Getzlaf and whatnot. But it looks like he will come back as of now, unless something changes between now and, of course, the free agency time. And we are going to have Murray and Akins for at least another year. Maybe Solomon replaces him after that. I don't know. Murray is big on him. He said that he knew that David McNabb was going to retire. He felt that the team was lucky to get Jeff, and talked about dealing with him, having mutual respect with him. Murray, actually, a positive thing, talked about how the analytical department's kind of been behind and that Jeff's going to help with that. So that's probably the best part, I guess, of this press conference, Eddie, before we go into the rest of it and kind of rip him a new one. But I mean, that's where we're at. They're bringing in someone to help out and replace McNabb, which is huge. They lost a lot of experience. They're bringing another guy that's got decent experience, especially with the contracts, which is a big deal, of course, with the RFAs going into the offseason and whatnot. I like bringing him in. I think he's going to help. And as you talked about, is how much influence, though. That's the issue. I think that's our problem, is that he's still going to be assistant GM and report to Murray. And that's the concern I have, Eddie.
Yeah, it's just like we all know that assistant word means. Like, if you guys work at jobs, my first job was fast food at Carl's Jr. when I was in high school, and it's like you always had that assistant manager where you don't really have to pay attention to. It's like, okay, you're an assistant manager. Let me go to the manager, and he makes the final decisions. So I don't know. It sounds like a great move on paper. I just hope we can see something different moving forward, and then the Ducks can be a different entity than it was this past season and the seasons before. Yes, we'll get into the Murray press conference because I know a lot of you are probably going to tune into the show just to hear our discussion on that. But as of right now, and keep it as positive as possible, this is a good thing for Ducks fans, and we should be happy about that and welcome him to the team.
I agree 100%. And a lot of you had questions about, like, what do we do next season? What is the team going to, do to improve? And so Murray talked about that in his press conference. And you're probably not going to like what he had to say. But he talked about last year and how he didn't think last year was a lost season. I kind of have issues with that. But he mentioned that. He said that he learned more about the young players who took step forward last season. And then he talked about that he had to have a group of core players embracing his plan and need to identify that group. He also talked about the team getting faster, younger, and more exciting for fans to watch. So, to go from positive to negative, it is what it is, or being a realist. We've heard this record before, Eddie. We've heard get faster, get younger, etc. And as far as last year being a lost season, it's really going to depend on what they do in this offseason and next season. If we don't learn from the mistakes of what this team didn't do or wasn't able to do for whatever reason you want to get, as the cause, but if this team does not change from this past season to next season, then last season was a lost season. And the other issue I brought up on the show before, he talks about this core group of players needing to embrace the plan. To me, that sounds like the players aren't listening to him from what he's saying. And that's what I've heard. And if you listen to the last show, that's what I talked about. The players listen to Akins. They have a good reputation and respect for him, but not so much with Murray. And that block where Murray was talking about that's what I kind of got out of this, Eddie, is if we don't learn from the last season, and if the players aren't receptive to this quote-unquote plan by Murray, then we might be in for a long road next year too.
You know what? Next year, I'm not trying to be all negative, but we're gonna have the same outcome come next year. Murray is the problem, and I tell you this, and I said it numerous shows. I say it again: we are never gonna win a Stanley Cup with Murray as our GM. Period. And if that ever happens, I will buy a Minnesota Wild jersey and I will wear it and I will post it on social media for you. That's how confident I am. He's just that press conference, watching him, he just sounds lost, delusional. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's just like I really hate this that continuously talk bad about this person because he's our GM and he's done a lot of good things for the Ducks, but I think our team moved on beyond him and he doesn't know how to really construct it anymore. It's just that's the frustrating part of it. He always says the same exact things, and he even seemed less enthused about it when his last one. The issue is with me, he's not looking in the mirror and accepting some responsibility for his actions and his failures. This is a team he put together and it didn't perform. Yeah, I get it. Like we're that rebuilding thing. He couldn't even admit that fully. He used three other words to describe that. It's like, no, look, we're in a rebuild. We have a plan. Then tell the fans the plan. It's not like it's terrible. The power play, the special team. You have to do something different, and it just all roads are leading right back to Murray and his issues. And in his mind, I think he thinks he's just God's greatest creation to the Anaheim Ducks, and he's doing everything possible for the Ducks. But in reality, if you care about the team and you want the team to succeed, you'll eliminate the biggest problem with the team that's so far. That's yourself. Maybe a different role in the organization will suit you better, but obviously being a GM and not willing to work with the team and thrust the team into the right direction is the biggest issue. Like, I'm still going to watch the games. I don't care. I anticipate the Ducks not being good next season either. But if Murray gets another extension, honestly, guys, I don't know if I'm going to sit there and watch the games, all 82 games, or want to cover this team anymore. It's just getting too hard to see someone ruining the team, and someone like him that's so delusional that won't even accept responsibility for his I guess factors in this team being so bad.
And I think a lot of people share that same sentiment that you talked about, Eddie. As soon as this thing came out, you could see people just blowing up the Ducks social media accounts, upset that Murray's coming back. He's got one more year. I'm with you. I think a lot of people are on thin ice as far as their patience with this team, and I don't disagree at all. And if he does get an extension after that, oh boy, especially if the team doesn't make the playoffs next season, which we don't think they will. We have a poll question on that too. We'll discuss in a minute, but that's a huge issue. And he talked about this on his press conference that, well, he met with the owners. They understand the plan. Well, what the F is the plan? That's my issue. And how about letting us, the fans, know the plan? He talked about some things going away, quote unquote, money wise. Obviously, like Perry's buyout is going from $6+ million to $2 million next season. You got a couple other things that are dropping off, and you can kind of rearrange some things next season. But you still got to re-sign all these guys. And then he talks about, well, we got to draft well. We had some of you asking about that. The strategy, he's saying he's going to draft the best position available, which is coming up on Wednesday. We'll know where the Ducks will end up, somewhere between 1 and 4. And then he talks about trades and making the quote-unquote hockey deal, which, you can roll your eyes at that one because we all know what that means. It's just frustrating. So if there's a plan in place, and he met with the owners, which I've said this before, the owners have so much confidence in him and whatnot. It's unfortunate. It seems like they're almost like just giving him too much of the reins to run this team, and trying to make things better next season. I don't know. This plan. Well, what's the plan? You just want to draft well and get the best position available. Okay, so if the Ducks end up first or second, they're talking about Owen Powell as being the best defenseman. Is that what we're going to go with? Even though the team needs scoring, and the forwards have been the issue, the big issue. The power play has been a big issue, which he did admit to that in the press conference, but that's like, duh, we all know that. The power play is the worst in the league at 8.9%. Horrible. It's like common sense, which doesn't exist anymore in our society today. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of frustrated. This press conference did not really give me a lot of hope or encouragement other than the analytical part. I really want to see what's going to happen in the draft and then free agency. He talked about some personnel changes that need to be made. Mark Morrison was the assistant coach in charge of the power play. So Murray talked about getting someone else in there to help out Akins with that. Maybe another slight positive. Obviously, that had to be changed. We've kind of known that. But the power play wasn't bad for last season only. It's been bad for a while. I mean, that's nothing new. And now you're going to try and fix it? I mean, yeah, you should fix it, but you should have fixed it before. So, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be, get all crazy and down on Murray on this thing. But I want to be a realist too. And I feel like a lot of what was said in this press conference was a broken record, Eddie, and it's like it's show me time. It's just a lot of empty words, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know what? The only thing different about this time he said it, he just said it with less enthusiasm. Usually before he's more enthusiastic and he gets you going. Like I said, if you're at elementary school and you're running for class president and we're promising freaking recess for 24 hours a day and it's all crazy. I think he seems depleted too, and I don't know. Like he's just running out of words to say. It seems like we don't want to hear words. I don't think there's any like Ducks fans that want to hear it. We want to see actions. We get it. We're in a process that's gonna take a while, and a lot of us are patient, but we don't see things improve here and there, and the same routine goes on over and over again. You're content with the same thing. It's like the power play is an issue. It's been an issue since Bruce Boudreau's been coach, and maybe even before that. I remember that being an issue, and you're not changing it. If the power play was that bad of an issue, you can fire your special teams power play coach in the midseason and bring someone else in, or do something change, do anything different. I don't care. You know what? If you want to put all your defenders as forwards and your forwards as defenders on a power play, what's the worst that's going to happen? Because you're already dead last in the league as it is. It's just he's not willing to budge. He's just I don't know, and I don't know why the owners are so content with bringing a losing product to the ice. Like you guys invested in this team. You guys are the owners. Your main goal obviously should be getting the maximum profit you can. Yeah, you want to win. You want to get a Stanley Cup, but obviously, if you bring a crappy product, it makes zero sense to me that they're just so content with that. Like, I don't know how much weed they're smoking or something just to be that calm and not just lose their shit about how this team is performing. But I'd be pissed off if I was the owner. There'd be heads rolling. I'd fire everyone. I'd go in the freaking stadium when they had fans and pick a random fan like, hey, bro, guess what? You're GM now. Like, do something different with this team.
And I think that's, even though that sounds crazy, what you're talking about, I think people have gotten to that point. I've had people send me messages on Facebook and Twitter about different things as far as fixing this team and getting things going. And it's gotten to that point, and it's frustrating. I think the other part that he talked about too in his presser is that, the Ducks need to get more pucks on the net. I think, Eddie, you and I have been talking about that for, 2 or 3 years now. We've been talking about getting more pucks on net. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, we've been talking about that. He also talked about players not drawing enough penalties. He said Comtois and Jones have been the best at that, which is partially true. Jones has been up there. Terry's been number 2. Comtois has been number 3 at that. And he's right about that. I mean, we need players to draw more penalties and get power plays, of course, and get in front of the net. You and I have talked about that, and more pucks on net. So he said he wants to add to the top 6 forwards. So I don't know if we're talking about Patrick Laine, which there's been rumors about that. Are they going to go out and do that? They need to. The Ducks need to go out and get a top 6 forward that can score, get in front of the net, and put pucks on net. That's like priority, I think, number 1. The goaltending situation, Gibson's there. We'll talk about that later. His name came up again with Pittsburgh, which kind of irritated me. But as far as this team and what they're looking at and the problems, a lot of you asked that, like Adam T-Town, what's the plan for the Ducks next? Cole Burke, what changes do you see in the offseason? Well, they need to make a trade. The Ducks absolutely have to make a trade, and they have to get a top scoring forward for the top 6, period. And if they don't in this offseason, it's going to be a long season next year. I do like Comtois. I want to see what they're going to do. Give him a good contract extension. Put him with Terry and Zegras. That's another part of the problem Eddie and I have harped upon is chemistry. this team has lacked that. This last season was a quote-unquote feeling out process, and Murray talked about, learning about these players and how they did. Okay, we got that. But you need to build an offensive lineup. The defense, I'm not too concerned about as much, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with the expansion draft and who to protect. We'll kind of go in more to that. But the offense is what this team needs to figure out. I really feel that this team needs to build off Zegras, Comtois, and Terry. That should be your one set line that next season. Then figure out who's going to be the other two forward lines for the top 9. And then, of course, the bottom 4, we don't care. Like, whatever. Grant, Delorier, whoever else is going to be down there, it is what it is for the 4th line. We know that. It is what, that 4th line will be. But that's my issue. There's no set lineup. We need to add scoring offense to this team. And the chemistry, besides those 3, Terry, Comtois, and Zegras, has been lacking on this team, Eddie.
Yeah, I think part of the chemistry problem is these players weren't allowed to go out and hang out. That's really important when you play sports, when you play hockey, like just have that time with the boys, like, or even girls too. Like, for example, like stuff when I like sports that I played, they're just going out with the team and having some drinks or having some lunch and just talking, BSing. It translates on the rink. It translates on the ice. It just, you get that better, that chemistry that builds. They didn't have that this season, and I understand that. Maybe next season when they actually are able to hang out and have those off-ice activities where they can just build that chemistry, it's going to help on the ice. But what we saw this season, it's going to take more than that. And we need a legitimate scorer. We need someone, like you said, that's going to get in front of the net, get in those dirty areas. Line A is a big guy, and he has a really powerful shot. Yeah, he has things that he has to work on to kind of just that two-way game, but I mean, if his job is mainly to score goals, then so be it. That should be your number one job. The Ducks have been lacking a number one left winger for I don't know how many years and how many years we talked about this. It's just we need something in someone that comes in that just wants to put the puck in back of the net. We have Zegras, yes, he's a pass first kind of player. So give him someone that's going to finish and let him build up those points. Let him build up his confidence. It's just build from there. It's something, I keep saying it. I sound like a broken record now, but like something really has to drastically change for this team to be better next season. If not, we're going to be in the same situation. We're going to be probably competing with Buffalo for being last in the league again. It's like I don't want to get to the point where I always have a kind of an escape saying, hey, thank God we're not X, Y, and Z team. But it seems like next season, the way this team is going, we might be that like, oh my God, this is a team that's the worst, and not just not just like the product on the ice, but just the consistency that hasn't been there either. So it's just, and the only thing positive about the Ducks is they don't have off ice issues. So let's just knock on wood on that and hope that nothing ever translates to off ice issues for the Ducks. Because if that happens, then man, I don't know. I just go watch golf or badminton again. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that is a positive, right? The off season or off ice stuff has been fine, but we put it out there to you guys to see what you thought. We put a fan poll out there. What do you think about the Ducks making the playoffs? When do you think that they'll make the playoffs again? So we asked about next season. 2 seasons away, 3 seasons away. Then I put jokingly, hopefully in my lifetime, which a lot of you like that one. About a third of you picked that one. But the majority of you felt that the Ducks would not make the playoffs next season, but would make it in the 22-23 season. A handful of you thought next season they would make it, 13%, and 16% thought in 3 years they'll make it. But, 40+% felt the Ducks would make the playoffs in 2 years. That's where you guys are at. And then, like I said, a lot of you put, hopefully in my lifetime. And I think that's the problem. That's what we're looking at. We don't have a lot of confidence in next season. I think a lot of people are waiting to see if the Ducks make a big move in the offseason, if Murray's gone at the end of next year, that we're waiting on too. And it's unfortunate. We're trying to hope for these things to happen. And that's what some of you asked. You had Alex HOGUE, he asked, can we make the playoffs next year? I don't think so. I don't think this team's going to make the playoffs next year. Eddie and I talked about this last season. We thought the Ducks would be 5th in the division. That was what we said. Get lucky, maybe get 4th and squeeze in. Well, that didn't happen. We all know that. They ended up being last in the division and 2nd worst in the league, unfortunately. And next season, I'm kind of in the same boat now. I think that they... I don't know. It depends on what they do with the divisions, right, and all the craziness going on in the world. They might rearrange everything and put it back to normal. I don't know. That's yet to be determined. But I don't see them, if they don't do anything in this off season, they don't go out and get some kind of offensive help or bring in someone to fix the power play. Unfortunately, I don't see them doing a lot. So they need to do something this summer. That's what this team needs to do. They need to bring in somebody to help score. They need to bring in someone to fix the power play. The defense and the goaltending is not the issue. I really don't. And we're going to have a deep dive a little bit later in here on the expansion draft and who to protect and all that. I don't see those as the issue. So that's where we're at. And the Ducks, they had the worst TV ratings, according to The Athletic, this season at 0.17. The worst. I'm thankful, though. You guys still listen to the podcast. and the podcast really went off, especially the last 2 shows. So I'm super thankful for you guys listening. But in terms of this team, there's a lot of issues. And the TV thing's a big problem Eddie and I talked about. There's a lot of people that just hit me up today about issues trying to watch the game, like on Dish Network and other things. That's another problem. I mean, if you want this team to be more exciting, like Murray's talking about, I went and met with the owners. Well, okay. How about you make the games more available for people to watch? A lot of people get like the goals and different things from the games, from the stuff we post, the video clips we post, because they can't watch it on TV. That's another problem. You're putting out a product out there that's not the best, but people can't even watch and like determine if what's going on in the ice either. So that's another issue too, Eddie. So I'm with the fans. The Ducks don't make the playoffs next year. If in 2 years, hopefully they make it. I thought another funny thing a lot of people said is we should have put an option on there that when Bob Murray's gone, the Ducks will make the playoffs. And I maybe I should have added that, Eddie.
Oh yeah, it's funny. It's just the whole TV thing too. I think it has a factor into it. It sucks. Like, it's a hard time for some people, and not everyone has the ability to alter their budget to watch these games on one platform. Like you have Sling TV used to be on YouTube TV. They're not on these platforms anymore, so like they don't have that option. It's just not fair. Like I've said it too. Like, you say hockey is for everyone, but you just kind of make it for people that make a little bit more money than others. Like, I'm fortunate right now. Like, work has been booming, so I can afford to pay for Spectrum. It's expensive, and honestly, like, if I wasn't doing this show and wanted to write and be part of Ducks and Pucks, I probably wouldn't shove up that money and pay for Spectrum. I don't think Spectrum's a good cable provider. That's just my personal opinion of what I've known from it so far. But I think it's just a waste, because all I'm doing is paying that money a month just to watch one thing, is hockey. I'm glad that my roommate agreed to pay half of the bill, so it makes it a little bit better, but it's still just an inconvenience. Like, you have to make this sport more available to everyone. You want to grow it. You should be able to have people watching games regardless. Like NHL TV was cool if you want to watch out-of-market games, but you can't even watch your own team play. And some games are blacked out, or if you're in a certain area, you couldn't get the game. It's just, you have to just like, it seems like you have to jump through hoops to go and try to watch hockey. If you don't believe me, anyone that doesn't have Spectrum or DirecTV, go try to watch NHL Network and see how your luck is on that. And it shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have to turn on the TV and you can get basketball, football, baseball on just like that. But hockey, it's just, you have to jump through hoops, poke your finger with blood and sign the dotted line, give your firstborn away, and you can barely watch it. That's what gets frustrating. It's unfortunate too, because the Ducks have lost those ratings, and there might be fans that just stop watching and just will forget about hockey, and you just lost a fan because you couldn't figure out a TV deal. You guys are fighting over a few $1,000s. I bet you it's not like a big lucrative deal where it's gonna change your whole entire life. It's just maintaining it, but it's unfortunate. But I do appreciate everyone that sends comments, that supports our page. We do the best we can for what we got, and we put a lot of work into this, and we love it. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, but we're still here, and we have that passion, and we love the interaction, and we love just to inform all the fans, especially the ones that aren't able to watch. And you guys like comments like, "Oh, thank you for this. I can't watch the game, but I follow this, so I can see what's going on," and that's what makes us happy. It makes it like worthwhile, and like fires us up for it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, 100%. And all the people out there too that like you said, they can't watch it and whatnot and get the stuff from our page. I'm glad we're able to provide that to you. Plus all the people that help us out on our staff, Thomas and Logan, all the people that write everything, George, there's people that cover Mario, the Twitter and different things like that and help out. So Aaron as well. So there are a lot of people that help us out covering everything, and that's huge too. So I'm not going to lie. Was it tough to cover this last season? Of course it was tough to cover it. But, having been born and raised in Anaheim and being a Ducks fan from the beginning, of course we're going to cover it. So the Ducks season, like we said, came to an end. He had Murray come out there and say his comments. And then so you kind of thought, okay, let's look forward to the AHL. You got the goals right. You got Drysdale. You got Zegras going down there. They did not have a Calder Cup playoff. They did have a playoff for the Gulls division, and it looked good. The Gulls won the first game against the Condors. They had a 3-game series, and then they ended up losing game 2 and 3 in overtime, and they got eliminated. So now you don't even have the Gulls to watch, unfortunately. I know some of you have mixed feelings. It's not a big deal because, like I said, no Calder Cup. They looked good in the first game. You had Zegras with a goal and an assist, 2 assists. Drysdale with a couple assists. Sam Carrick went off in that game as well. I think the biggest takeaway from this series was Dostal going nuts, making just crazy amounts of saves in these games. Especially that third game, they lost 2-1 in overtime. He stopped 42 of 44 shots, so pretty huge there. So, I mean, the future looks bright for the Ducks in the goalie situation, right? You have Gibson and net, you have Stolarz, you have Dostal. So I think that's the big takeaway from that series in San Diego, even though they had lost Eddie.
Yeah, Dostal seems like the real deal. I don't know if he's gonna evolve into the superstar goalie that everyone hopes you have, but he seems like a good option. His play just keeps getting better and better. Yeah, he had a little bit of a hiccup, but these playoffs and the stuff he's done in the playoffs, or whatever you call them, over there, is a positive thing. I always said Stolarz is a good, capable backup. He's projected to be the backup, but we're not sure if he's going to be with the team next season. There's other factors that we'll go into later. But I think Dostal is ready to at least get some games in next season at the NHL level. We can really see his development transitioning from there. So hopefully, who knows, we might have another hidden gem and he could be another Gibson for the team. So that's never a bad thing at all.
And with that, the Ducks and Gulls, right, their season's over. We have the expansion draft now that we have to be concerned about. We kind of talked about it on other shows before. We'll kind of go into it a little bit more here. Eddie and I will give our predictions on what we think will happen. It's kind of a tough situation for the Ducks. We've talked about, with the expansion draft and the rules. I'll put out an article on this, but the team can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or they can go with 8 skaters, either offense, defense, however they want to make that up, and 1 goalie. The goalie situation we're not too worried about, as far as they're going to protect Gibson. Maybe they take Stolarz and pick him up. That's kind of what Eddie alluded to a little bit ago, so that may happen. But in terms of offense, defense, there's a lot of things to try to figure out here. So I kind of broke it down into who the Ducks should protect, not protect, and then the maybes. And of course, the maybes is the big issue here. So looking at offense and defense, as far as protecting players, I listed on here Raquel and Terry on offense. They want to protect Lindholm, Manson on defense. Looking at the offense, we'll break that down first, then go to the defense. As far as those not to protect, we've talked about this on previous shows. We talked about Henrique and Silverberg, right? Both their contracts are long-term through 23-24. Henrique's is $5.8 million, Silverberg $5.2. Grant, Eddie and I love Grant, but he came back this season was a disappointment. He did have 6 goals, but still he didn't do as much as we thought he would do. You have Delorier, another fan favorite. Eddie and I love him, of course, because he gets in the fights and all that stuff, stands up for the players and everything. Not a guy that we're against. So you have these guys that we don't think that they're going to protect, as far as the forwards. And I'll let Eddie chime in here in a second. And then the big issue is really the maybes. I mean, who do you protect, right? If you're going 7-3-1 or you're doing the other one, you have to look at Lundstrom, Jones, Steele, Heinen, Milano, and Volkov. A lot of players here. I mean, what do you do? How do you figure this out? The Ducks have to decide on what they're going to do. If they're going to go with the forwards and they're going to go with 7, you can protect most of these guys. You have Lundstrom. He had 6 goals. He had a hat trick. Played very well at center. He could be somebody to come up through the line, especially if Getzlaf later on. If he comes back next season, like we talked about. But you got to have another center up in there, or Henrique gets traded. Right? We've talked about that. That was a big rumor this last season. So you have him to question about. You have Jones, who plays hard, goes to the net, hasn't really produced offensively. Steele as well hasn't produced as much offensively, but also is in the center position. You have Heinen, who is also the trade rumor mill with Vancouver, and also didn't get to play as much until the end when the Ducks had more injuries. And then you've got Milano, who had some concussion issues. Don't know, how much that's going to affect him. And then Volkov, who had little spurts in there too. So I think this part's really tough, Eddie. I mean, what do you think? I'm thinking the Ducks for sure protect Raquel and Terry. I like Terry with Comtois and Zegras. Don't let him go. Raquel, really high value. We know Murray missed the boat on that. He still could trade him later. You don't want to lose him for nothing, though, to Seattle. But what do you think about these other ones as far as not protecting some of these guys and the maybes? What's your take on all these? I know there's a lot of names in here, but it's really the forwards that the Ducks have to figure out that they want is that quote-unquote core that Murray's talking about.
Yeah, I think you hit the mark when you put Raquel, Terry, Lindholm, Manson. Definitely, they have to be protected. Obviously, Gibson's going to be protected. We're not going to talk about him because he's not going to go anywhere. If you leave him unprotected, I mean, part of me makes me think the Ducks unprotect Gibson and let him just be exposed, so that can actually prove that Murray's delusional and needs to be fired ASAP. But no, I wouldn't want to lose Gibson for nothing basically. I still think Stolarz would be a good option for Seattle to take. His game just toward the end of the season, it just keeps increasing, and at most he can be a decent and capable backup goalie, and he can steal games for you. He can make those big saves. It's going to be kind of interesting. I have the Henrique, Silverberg, Grant, Delorier, Rowney. Obviously, I don't want to lose Grant because I like the way his play style is, but like a lot of these players on the, like you had on Do Not Protect, I don't see Seattle going for. Like, yeah, Henrique has a lot of potential. He didn't play up to it. His contract is kind of too high. Silverberg the same. You want to take a risk on someone. Maybe he had a bad season. He can just jumpstart it next season and be that scorer that we need and we know he can be. If not, you're taking a chance on a player that, hey, but maybe he's past his prime. Maybe he's just in that declining phase. And are we going to waste a pick and waste that money on him? It just doesn't make sense to me. I think Stolarz would be the best pick. Shattenkirk, I would love for him to be exposed and taken. I think he was just kind of I'm sorry to say, he was a waste this season. And I think someone else could have brought in. His game didn't really seem to jump up until later on in the end of the season, but I still don't see anything special about him. I think he's way past his prime. Obviously he is. I can't see him helping the Ducks in the near future. So it's just like what's the point of even having him? But I mean, we're stuck with them. If Seattle takes him, that'd be even good. But Other than that, we have Lundestrom is a good option. If he gets exposed, I think Seattle will take him. And then Volkov, him too. I didn't know like a lot about him when he first came, but then watching his game, you just see him continuously getting better and better. Especially coming from Tampa, he's kind of like whatever, but it comes to the Ducks, and he just seems like he got rejuvenated. So maybe that will spark a fire under him, and they can get at least a consistent bottom nine forward out of him. But I still put my money on Stolarz. I can't see Seattle not taking Stolarz in this draft.
Yeah, that's the one that I thought too. If they're going for goalies and whatnot, he could be one. The only thing that might change their mind is he did get hurt in the IIHF tournament, leg injury. It doesn't sound serious, but he did have that happen. So I don't know if they're paying attention to that. Again, just like trying to watch the Ducks on TV, you can't really find the IIHF on TV. Maybe some illegal streams or something. I don't know. I'm not going to promote those, but you can't really see what's going on because I had some people asking about what happened with him and what was the play, and well, I don't have video of it because I can't get access to it. So I'm with you on that. If they're looking at forwards, you're looking at this maybe section. It's kind of tough with this team. Jones, Lundstrom, Steele, Volkov, Milano, Heinen. What they're going to do if they're going to go 7-3-1, they could protect most of these guys. They could protect Raquel and Terry. That's 2. And then you would be able to protect 5 of those next 6. Like I said, Jones, Lundstrom, Steele, Volkov, Milano, Heinen. You could protect 5 of those 6. It's tough. I like Volkov, like you talked about. He had 4 goals and 4 assists in 18 games with the Ducks. Heinen, I liked Heinen, but it seemed like Murray didn't really care for him. So maybe he exposes him and he gets picked up. That's another one to look for. Milano, I really like him. The concussion issues, he wasn't able to finish out the rest of the season. He barely played. He only was able to get in 6 games this season, which is unfortunate. So, if it's a forward that they expose, if they go 7-3-1, if they expose one of those 3, maybe one of them get taken. If they protect Raquel, Terry, Jones, Lundstrom, Steele, and then 2 out of those 3, maybe something like that is where they would go if they don't go for Stolarz. And they look for that. So that's where I'm at. I don't think any one of those would be devastating. If the Ducks lose Heinen, Milano, Volkov, I don't think so. If they lose Lundstrom, I feel like that's a William Karlsson situation. Like, if they lose him, will he just go to Seattle, go off like Karlsson? I mean, I don't know, because Karlsson went to Columbus, didn't do well, but then went to Vegas and did better. So, I don't know. I'd rather keep Lundstrom than those 3. That's kind of where I'm at with that. If they do the 7-3-1, I think they're in a good spot. But in order for them to do the 7-3-1 option, they've got to figure out some stuff on defense, which we've talked about. So if you're going to protect Lindholm, which, I mean, that's like a no-brainer. You have Manson, which is kind of like Raquel. He has some trade value. Yeah, he didn't play as well this season, but you want to keep him because he's your stand up defenseman, right-handed shot, right? There's not a lot of that out there right now. But then what are you going to do with Fowler, Fleury, and Shattenkirk? And this is something that I kind of thought about lately, looking at Fowler's contract and talking to some people. I almost think the Ducks should just expose Fowler. He's at $6.5 million until 25-26 season. I mean, that's a long way to go. Will Seattle take a chance on him and do that? I mean, you're going to pick him up, and then you're going to have to pick up that tab too? I don't know. Yeah, you may call me crazy or whatever. I get it. Call me crazy. But if the Ducks want to do that 7-3-1 idea, maybe you protect Lindholm, Manson. We talked about Fleury before, because the other issue with Fleury is you sent a draft pick and Hakanpää over to the Canes, who also beat the Preds, by the way. I know we're all happy about that. We'll go into that later in the show. But I mean, you could set it up if you expose Fowler. You could do the 7-3-1, no problem. Expose Shattenkirk as well. As you talked about, it was not as impressive as we thought, taking too many penalties. He had some sparks of offense here and there, but still wasn't really what we expected with his deal. So that's kind of what I lean towards, is do the 7-3-1 deal, expose Fowler, which, yeah, may be a risk, but if he gets taken, you open up a huge amount of cap, especially for the long term if he's picked up. And don't get me wrong, I love Fowler. He's one of my favorite players. But if you're gonna try and do the 7-3-1, if you think all these forwards are so important that you want to keep this young core going forward, that's where I lean. Now, do I think Murray will do it? Hell no. I don't think Murray will do it. He doesn't have the balls to expose Fowler. I don't think he will ever do that. I think he will protect Fowler, Lindholm, Manson, and then either Fleury or Shattenkirk, which you and I talked about in previous shows. But I think that's the key here is which one do you go to? I think he goes with the 8-1 route instead of the 7-3-1 route. And it really comes down to the defense. Do you want to protect 3 or do you want to protect 4? That's what he has to look at. I don't think he wants to lose Fleury after what he did. He did play well in those last couple games at the end of the season. He's not, a Lindholm, top defenseman, but he's also not one of these guys on the edge like Gooley, Larson, Mahura, Walensky that are kind of like that fifth, sixth, maybe seventh defenseman. So that's what I'm leaning towards, Eddie. I don't know what you think. If Murray will do the 8-1 or 7-3-1, what are your thoughts?
Who knows at Murray? Who knows? He'll probably, I don't know. He'll probably give up Gibson sometimes. Like if he's that delusional and stuff, you have no idea what he's thinking. But what you have so far, we talked about, makes the most sense. I still think that we're going to lose a goalie in this upcoming draft. Like even seeing the goalies available, they have to take a chance on the best possible player too for them. Stolarz, like I said, he can be your capable number one backup goalie, and it's just and possibly, who knows, if he just, goalies have such a weird transition and they develop differently. You never know. You just get the right one. Look at Jack Campbell in Toronto. Like no one thought that he was gonna develop anything. Yeah, when he got drafted with Dallas, everyone thought okay, he's gonna be number one. He didn't play well in Dallas. LA, you saw a little glimpse of it. Toronto, just he's pretty much being a star right now, a superstar, and he's the reason why they played well and they won. I think he won 10 games in a row or something like that. So you never know, and his contract and everything is worth taking that chance on. Hey, well, we're not going to lose that significant amount if we invest in him. Okay, worst he fades out into the wind. Or we have a capable starting goalie for our AHL team that we know that can be that good goalie for our minor league team. So I really think that he's gone. There's no question about that. They can expose and open up that for other players like Shattenkirk and Cam Fowler, but I just can't see Seattle taking them and investing their time in them. It just seems too many problems, and you never know what you're going to get, and it's too big of a price tag. I would really keep Fleury over Shattenkirk. I don't see it with Shattenkirk, and I don't see him really doing anything significant for the Ducks in the upcoming future. Fleury's one of those players that you don't know what you have yet. You don't want to just let him go, and then like you said about William Karlsson, him just thriving somewhere else. It's okay, this could have been the guy. Same with Lundestrom. You don't want him just to go and be exposed and go to Seattle and become a 30 goal scorer and be like William Karlsson. It's just one of those things that, and especially with Vegas. Vegas has Karlsson and they have Theodore. And Theodore is a legitimate top defenseman now, and the Ducks would probably be happy to have someone like that and be a little bit better, especially in the power play, having him. But we don't, so it's just one of those things where it's just, like I said, I think Stolarz is going to be the best bet, and hopefully it doesn't turn into the case where they pick someone from the Ducks and he turns out to a superstar, because that's going to be 3 times in a row. And that's going to be terrible.
That's the issue. Exactly. It's who they pick up, and then that person turns out to be awesome. So I would go with the 7-3-1 route. That's what I would do. I would protect Raquel, Terry, Lundestrom, Steele Jones, Milano, and then either Volkov or Heinen. One of those 3, Milano, Volkov, or Heinen. Excuse me, 2 of those 3 I would protect. So leaving one of those guys out. And then defense, Lindholm, Manson, Fleury. Obviously, goalie would be Gibson. Now, I don't think Murray will do that, so I think Murray will go with Raquel, Terry, Lundestrom, and then either Steele or Jones, and then Fowler, Lindholm, Manson, Fleury. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's kind of what Eddie and I talked about. So that's where we're at. We'll find out soon. They have to submit their list in a couple weeks, and we'll see where Murray stands. So I'll put out an article more detailed on that, kind of going over it and all the picks and whatnot. I have even added stuff in there with more stats and whatnot, but that's where we're at and kind of what our expectation is. So we'll see what happens with the Ducks, but I'm with Eddie. I think Murray's going to protect whatever defenseman that he deems that he needs to protect, and I feel that Stolarz could be gone. If he is not gone, then maybe they do go after one of those forwards. Unless, like I said, they want to take on maybe Shattenkirk, because I don't see Murray unprotecting Fowler in that. So that's where we're at with the team. And but there's plenty of other hockey going on right now. There is the playoffs, all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the Ducks division, the West division. Eddie, as you and I talked about and we thought would happen, we had Ken from Sinbin Vegas on here. It's Vegas against Colorado. You had the Avalanche destroying St. Louis, sweeping them in 4 games. You had the Golden Knights, which Ken talked about. He thought they were going to have trouble against Minnesota, and they did. They blew them out in Game 7, but it took 7 games. What's your thoughts now on the West Division as Vegas squares off against your second favorite team, the Colorado Avalanche?
It's going to be a fun series. I talked about this before these two teams even met. Having Colorado and Vegas play each other, that's going to 7 games, period. There's no discussion about that. These teams are powerhouse teams. These teams are physical teams. Goaltending, I think Vegas has the advantage on goaltending, but Colorado's on fire. They're gonna ride that momentum, and they really want to win, and they have the pieces to take it. Eric Johnson skating again. He might come back, and yeah, he's not the Eric Johnson you know for years ago, and he's not going to be a big factor on the points score, but for some reason when he's in the lineup, the team just gets rejuvenated, and they play like always better when he was in the lineup. He just does those little things. He brings that spark to the team. It's going to be a really fun series, and I think even non-hockey fans, I would suggest you tell your friends, like, watch this series, because after watching this, you might become a hockey fan, hopefully a Colorado fan, not a Vegas fan. No, I wouldn't care. You could be a hockey fan of whatever team, minus the Minnesota Wild, but I'm glad the Minnesota Wild got beat in that Game 7. It sucks that they actually went to Game 7. There's some controversy in that Game 6 of that goal, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. What's funny was Ryan O'Reilly. I like him as a player. His comments saying it's going to be fun, we're going to beat this team, that really pissed off the Avalanche. For some reason, they swept them. So that was kind of, sometimes you have to kind of be a little humble sometimes. Don't open your mouth and run your mouth like that when you can't back it up. Because obviously St. Louis didn't back it up. Everyone thought St. Louis was going to have this big old like spunk and, oh, well, you know what happened last time, they can do it again. No, Colorado just shut them down. So it's going to be a fun series, but I do have Colorado winning in 7.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Vegas, and I know we had mixed reviews from people on social media when I put out there who was going to win Game 7. A lot of you wanted Minnesota. Of course, Eddie and I didn't want Minnesota, but now we got this going on, and a lot of people that are Ducks fans don't like Vegas. I'm going for them. I'm rooting for them, but I don't think they're going to win. I think Colorado will take this. They just took it to St. Louis, which I expected them to win the series, but I didn't expect it in 4 games. So I think Colorado takes this one, though. I really do. They also have home ice, which is a big thing that Ken talked about from Sinbin Vegas. He said if the Knights were to square off against the Avs as they are now, that they would need home ice, and I think he's right. I think Colorado takes this one. I think actually Colorado takes this one in 6 games. I'm going to go one little less than you, Eddie, on there. But I think it will be a fun series. It's getting underway this weekend. By the time this show comes out, Game 1 might be over. So we're recording, like I said, on the 30th before that. So I'm really looking to that. Moving along, we had the East. You had Boston knocking out Washington. Not really sad about that. Bye-bye, Tom Wilson. I don't really care. Get lost. The Penguins got eliminated by the Islanders. 4-2. I was a little surprised by that. I mean, there we talked about it before. Jeff Carter's on the team. I didn't want him to win another cup, even though the Penguins are my second favorite team. So I was kind of conflicted there. But the Penguins are gone. So you got the Islanders against Boston now fighting out in the second round. But the big thing that came out of all of this, Eddie, is of course because of the goalie situation in Pittsburgh. You had all these rumors coming out again about Pittsburgh going after Gibson in the offseason. You remember we heard about that earlier this year because of all the other stuff, which we said wasn't really legit. But then, the Ducks had their player exit interviews. Gibson wasn't really happy, saying that he's frustrated because he feels that the team finds ways to lose games. And so this came up now. I haven't heard much really other than the one guy, Nick Alberga, saying the stuff that he did on Twitter about, he wants Pittsburgh to go after him. I don't know that Pittsburgh has the assets to do that. They're not going to, trade a Malkin or a Crosby or anything like that. I don't think that they have sufficient draft picks to really offer a legit deal. But this came up again, and of course it started all that nonsense again, Eddie. So what did you think about the East? You got, like I said, the Penguins and Washington eliminated, and then, of course, the Gibson trade talks kind of sparked up again.
Yeah, I didn't think Washington would lose 4-1. That was kind of shocking, and I want to say part of it too was Samsonov's mistake by playing that puck, that awful puck he attempted to play, and that was kind of a game changer for them. It could have went both ways, or Washington could have won that game, and who knows, they could have been advancing. But I don't mind that. Like Boston, it's a good team. They have a lot of firepower. The whole Tom Wilson thing is like, okay, whatever. I did want to see maybe Ovi advance, because seeing drunk Ovi in the offseason is always awesome. It's just amazing. But I was kind of glad when the Islanders beat the Penguins for some reason. Like I'm a big fan of Varlamov, and it's just they were the kind of underdogs. I do have bad blood for how their fans treated Tavares. Like their fans were just pieces of shit on that situation. But yeah, it was a good series. They pretty much wanted it more basically, and Varley stood on his head. So that was good to see. As far as the Gibson rumors, obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins aren't happy with goaltending, and it's been an issue from the start of the season. I know they tried to reacquire back Marc-Andre Fleury, but it didn't really happen. You have to think to consider they made one of the biggest mistakes in their organization, letting him go. And look, Matt Murray's gone to Ottawa. He didn't play well over there either. It seems like his career is kind of spiraling down. I get decision making, a decision like that. You have a younger goalie. He won you a cup too. He's a goalie of the future. It just didn't pan out. But if any talks for the Pittsburgh Penguins wanting to get John Gibson is going to be extremely tough. It's going to be a huge move. And if the Ducks can actually do this, and both teams can do this, you don't start talking unless Jake Getsel is part of the conversation. And unless he's part of the conversation, that's a little bit intriguing. Like you said, Mike, they need the draft picks. They need other players. If we can make a trade like this, they have to significantly give us a good amount of players that will put us in that right direction to accelerate this rebuild. Is it going to happen? No, there's too many moving parts, and I don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins want to get rid of Jake Getsel at all. He's a really valuable player. He's really a great player. So it's just too many moving parts. Obviously, something has to change with the Pittsburgh Penguins and their goalie situation, because it's really unacceptable. I think they're on the verge of being to that declining team. I can't see them competing for a cup in the next 2-3 years. It's just one of those things where they had it, and they had success, which is good for them. We're not going to get a Malkin. We're not going to get a Crosby. So those are out of the question. Letang would maybe be a discussion, but he has some injury issues. But he'd be a discussion as well if you want to include Gibson. But it's just, there's going to be too many moving parts for it, and I really can't see Murray even attempting that conversation with Gibson.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it would take too much for them to get it going, even if it is like bringing in Jake or whatnot. I mean, there's just a lot going on there that it would take to get Gibson. And yeah, he's frustrated. And that seems to kind of be the thing that's added to these rumors and whatnot. It was kind of the source of the rumors earlier in the season. And then obviously like him being from Pittsburgh, right, and Burke being over there and things like that. So I'm not ruling it out 100%, but if it was to happen, it would take a lot, and it would be a crazy, crazy trade. And with Murray in there, I just don't see it happening. I don't see him making any big moves like that. You know, I hope he does something this summer, as we talked about earlier. But yeah, I don't know that that's going to happen. But the Penguins definitely have to figure out their goalie situation, because it ended up hurting them in that series against the Islanders. And then we had the North Division, which we got some joy out of the North Division, right? Winnipeg taking it to Edmonton, knocking them out. Winnipeg was down, I think, by 3 goals in one game in the third period and came back and won in overtime. I don't remember a situation like that, Eddie. Oh, wait a second. That's right. What was that comeback on Catella when the Ducks were down by 3 goals in the third period? So, if you're an Edmonton fan listening to this, I feel bad for you. Not really. But Edmonton got knocked out by the Jets. They were up by 3 goals in the third period in one of the games and lost, and then went on to lose the series. No love lost for them. And then you've got Perry getting his 100th playoff point with Montreal. Montreal forcing a Game 7 against Toronto. Obviously, the winner of that will take on the Jets. Some crazy stuff going on in Canada. What's your thoughts on these two matchups, Eddie?
It's just funny. I don't know what Edmonton's deal is. You have two of the, I'll say top 5, but I'll spread it out. Maybe top 7 players in the world. You had McDavid having an unreal season. You just can't get it together. You get swept by the Jets that no one could have predicted it at all. I think everyone's NHL bracket is to shit because of this. It's just, I don't know what's going on with them. Goaltending maybe, defense, but something has to change, and they have to make a huge, significant change to get their team to that situation. Like, there's no reason why you should have been swept this season. It's just, you had all those first round draft picks. Something's wrong with your organization too, and you have to fix it. Obviously, you're not going to get rid of McDavid. That'd be kind of stupid. You want him to build off of, or maybe that's the right decision to make, because obviously you're doing it the wrong way. It seems like one of maybe like Draisaitl has to be traded. Not saying that he's the problem, that he's bad, but he would have the second most value on the team, and he could bring you a huge return to actually, get your team to a different level. If people want to say with this whole Gibson thing and trading Gibson, maybe that's an option. Like, Ducks need a player like that, a legitimate superstar. So that would be in talks. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there as an example. But it's pathetic. And I do feel for their fans. It's sad. I know a few of them that I follow on Facebook too. And it's just not fair for that organization either. They had so high expectations every season. They have a good team on paper. You just can't get it together. I mean, yes, haha, it's funny. You guys lost another 3-goal lead. You can't blame it on goalie interference now. I think their fans are at the point where they can't make excuses and blame everyone else. They have to start pointing at their organization and blame them.
I agree. And, the other news that came out, too, is Wayne Gretzky stepped down from his role with the Oilers after all of this. Now is going to be a studio analyst at TSN. So even the great one, Eddie, said bye-bye Edmonton, where, of course, he won several Stanley Cups. So, I mean, the situation isn't great for us in Anaheim, but, man, it's not great in Edmonton either.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what I prefer, to have our situation in Anaheim or have the situation in Edmonton. It's just one of those things. I think I prefer Anaheim because it's just terrible. Like, I mean, like, we could not fast forward, but go back in time and see the teams that we had for Anaheim, thinking that we're going to win the cup, and we should have won the cup, and we got bounced out early. We couldn't get past the Game 7 crap. We just didn't come together. It's even worse for Edmonton when you have a player like McDavid and Draisaitl on your team. Those players are amazing players. They're fun to watch. They're talented. They're legitimate superstars. And it's just seeing them waste their talent for a team that just can't get it together. That's what's sad. And I know a lot of people don't like McDavid and they just hate on him, but I don't. I'm a hockey fan first. I love the Ducks and stuff, but when it comes down to it, I love hockey. I love the game first. So I respect and love watching a player like McDavid just thrive in the league, but it's horrible. There's no excuse for that. And either something big has to happen. If not, Edmonton is probably not going to make the playoff next season or get bounced out the first round again.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to have to do something over there too, just like we are going to have to do something. The last division in the playoffs, you had the South. You had the Battle of Florida. You had Tampa Bay, which was a fun series. They played the Panthers. They ended up winning that one 4-2. And then, of course, most of you love this. The Hurricanes knocked out the Predators as well in their series. And the Hurricanes social media going after the Predators, posting that they got blocked by them, then putting up these funny banners about, crushing a beer and playing Creed during the intermission and making fun of the Predators being the second largest crowd in the NHL was pretty funny. But if you missed out those games, they were fun to watch. Especially the Battle of Florida was good. Tampa Bay ended up, as most of you probably expected, winning that one. And then I was super happy. Anytime the Predators get knocked out, that's always good. So you've got Tampa Bay against the Hurricanes now moving forward, Eddie.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why I wanted Florida to win that series against Tampa Bay. I was kind of weird when Tampa Bay just all of a sudden had Stamkos and Kucherov healthy for game one, and then Kucherov goes and scores 4 points in that first game. It kind of seems that they kind of cheated the cap, which good on them for getting away with it and finding a loophole. But I don't know. I kind of wanted Florida to go ahead and take that series, but they didn't. Oh well. The Canes knocking out the Preds, that was okay. The Canes destroying the Preds on social media was even better. I don't know who runs that Canes account, but I would love to buy him a beer, buy her a beer. They're awesome. They're doing everything right in social media, and all the other teams need to take notes on the Canes because they've always been that force on social media. The Devils this season, too, for some reason, they just stopped giving a crap, and they just started talking crap, and it worked for them. It was funny. Like, the engagement they had. It's just the Canes and the Devils this season really took off on social media. It's just really fun and enjoyable. You just want to see what they post next. Like, you want them to have a battle with like Wendy's and another social media mogul that doesn't care, just likes to say things. But I kind of wish a certain team that we follow was a little more engaged on social media instead of doing the same thing over and over again. But I don't know, maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah, the Hurricanes' social media is pretty funny. The Vegas Golden Knights is pretty funny. There's a couple out there, like you said, that really get into it. The Devils was a crack up because, like you said, them being at the bottom of the league, I forgot, some guy trolled them, remember? And then he was like bench pressing like no weights or something. Yeah. And they made fun of him. And then the guy ended up like deleting his whole account, Eddie. That was hilarious.
Yeah, and there was the other one too. Some girl tweeted about her fiance wearing a Rangers jersey, and they quote tweeted saying, "Oh, like I guess we all make bad decisions in life," or something like that. It's funny, and some people get offended by it. Of course, the society we live in, everyone's offended. Like, I'm wearing a shorts and a t-shirt right now. I'm pretty sure someone's offended by that. Who knows? But it's just the Devils embraced it. It's just funny how they're doing that. It makes them enjoyable. It's like if I were a fan and I played as bad as them and had that situation with the Devils do, I'd still have pride. Like, look at my team still firing shots. Like, I'm even afraid. Like, if we ever have a game against the Devils next season, and I'm running the DucksNPucks account, I'm afraid to even say anything to the Devils. I probably wouldn't even tag them at all. Like, who knows? Because if I get trolled, it's like I can't respond back. But it's just fun to see. It's fun to see those personalities. Those people running the social media are doing it right. It's awesome. It's different. I love it. Vegas too. Vegas, it came out there. I think that they were the trendsetters of crossing that line, that limit. The Hurricanes have always had that spunky personality. Whoever's running it, they're always fun. Another one, the Avalanche. The Avalanche aren't like the Hurricanes or the Devils, but they include their fans and they want to reach out to their fans. That Denver Avs page, they follow us back. I'll tweet something, or someone else running the page will tweet something. Without tagging them, they'll respond. They go outside the box to really reach out to their fans and make you feel included and part of the team. So I really respect that a lot too. And it's sad to say, sometimes the Kings organization too has some fun tweets, and they go at it. They've been kind of boring this last season, but the seasons before, they actually been jumping up there and doing it. The Ducks this season, it was a little bit different. I saw them kind of engaging more and crossing that line per se, but just they had to change it. Just be more upbeat. Just be fun. Engage in fans, all your fans. I think every team in social media, if your fans take the time to, pretty much to pump your tires and promote your game, either they're buying a jersey or they're promoting your stuff, you should just give them that love. Just hit that like button. It's not that hard. It's just give the fans that appreciation, and that goes a long way. The Devils, the Hurricanes, the Avalanche, they're all doing that. Even the Blue Jackets too. I forgot to mention it because they had some funny stuff that was that got them in trouble about that. I'm not going to mention the show. I don't want to get in trouble either. But they had some fun stuff though. But it's really good to see, and I love seeing that as part of the game, and it's fun, and it's the interaction, and it gets people talking.
Yeah, and that's the key, is getting that engagement, getting people going. Even, when you're losing, making up funny stuff and whatnot, and trying to keep it light and entertaining, like you said. You mentioned Columbus in there, too. What do you think about the Seth Jones situation there? It's kind of interesting that he's talking about free agency, Eddie.
Yeah, you know what? It makes sense for a player like that. You're a younger player. It's the first time you ever experienced being an unrestricted free agent. I think a lot of players, I'm surprised a lot of players don't do that more often, but I understand the whole loyalty of it. Something's going on in Columbus because they can't keep their free agents. Like, people just want to get out of there. So I don't know if it's management too, or something internally going on, or I don't know if over there it's just a shitty place to play. I have no idea. I've drove by there once, by their arena. I mean, the whole atmosphere in the city looked amazing. I haven't had a chance to sit there and go to dinner or go there. I do want to go there again because I had a good experience driving through there. But I don't know. It's just really weird. I don't know if he had a goal to play in Colorado too. He has his ties, and he started hockey in Colorado when his dad played basketball over there. His dad asked Joe Sakic, what he could do to be a professional hockey player. So I don't know if he has that ties there, or maybe he just wants to experience and see what he can get on the open market. Obviously, he's going to get pretty much an overpayment for what he's worth on the open market. I know Columbus, their GM, has an issue with kind of giving people their value, or kind of underpaying people a little bit, or trying to underpay people. But it's just, I respect the fact that he told his team a year in advance. He has one more year in his contract, so they have the opportunity to trade him and get assets for him. So I really like that, not just holding off. But it's going to be interesting to see. He's not going to come to the Ducks. Don't get all weird about it. Blah, blah, blah. But he's a good defenseman. He's not a superstar defenseman that's going to put all those numbers, but he can log huge minutes. You can put him in really hard situations, and he'll just be that player that you want. I like him. I think he's a great defenseman. It's just, it sucks that Columbus can't hold players like that. It begs the question, what's going on with their organization? And if things keep going like this in the next upcoming few years, could we be talking about a relocation for this team if they can't really hold superstar players? And they really haven't held a superstar player since was it Rick Nash maybe? But it's just it's bad. We'll see how it happens. I would think Colorado would be on his list to go, since he has a lot of ties there. So who knows? Good luck to him, though.
Yeah, I definitely watched that situation. I think you're right. He could end up going somewhere else. I've been to Columbus too, like you talked about. Definitely a good place to visit. Never went to the arena, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that team. Another team, like we said, Anaheim, obviously Edmonton, New Jersey, these teams that are having these issues trying to get back on track and do these things. So I would definitely keep an eye on Columbus as well. So we got a couple more fan questions too to kind of finish out this show. I guess the one for the Ducks is kind of interesting. We had a few of you ask this, and we had Angel Intruder ask this, about the Ducks doing a new logo. We've talked about the Mighty Ducks logo, or maybe something new. He also brings up the new captain. If Getzlaf doesn't come back for some reason, which we don't think that that's going to happen, but even if he comes back, are the Ducks going to do captain? Are they going to do a new logo? I think we talked about, other captains for the Ducks. We talked about Fowler. We talked about Silverberg before. What are your thoughts on this, Eddie? You think, regardless if Getzlaf comes back, who could we see be the captain next year for the Ducks?
Well, obviously it's me Getzlaf, but if I had my pick and I can throw out captains out there, I would say Josh Manson. I think, he had some injuries. It's hindering him, but I think he brings that element and what you want in a leader by leading by example on the ice. Like he's a good player. Yes, like I said, injuries have hindered him, but I think he would be my vote to be the new captain. Obviously, Cam Fowler is a popular choice. I think he would be named captain because he's been there for a while. He's supposed to take over Niedermayer's spot back in the day, but I think he would be one. As far what's one thing that got me on this question, and thank you for this question, is this new logo thing. I think you meant maybe like a rebranding of the jerseys or the old school Mighty Ducks logo. As much as I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it every single game. I want to see it as a third jersey. I'm good with this regular jersey they have right now, the home and away, but I would love to see just a nice little retro eggplant color jersey. That'd be cool. Obviously, I don't think the Wild Wing jersey will be back too much too soon. They only wear it 2 or 3 times this season, so and I really wanted them to wear it against the Kings, but they didn't. But as far as the new future too, hopefully, I mean. You know what? We can do something different too, Mike. And what about giving someone like our younger players that captain? Just throwing it out there. I don't agree with that. I think you have to earn that captain spot. But like someone like Comtois, someone like Zegras, Drysdale, they're the future of this team. They're up and coming. You can see them being superstars. Why not just throwing the C on them and building the team off them and see what they can do with it?
It's funny that you brought that up. I think you read my mind because that's exactly what I was thinking is have one of those younger guys come up and have them be the captain. I mean, you had Correa come into the league and he was named captain shortly after. Why not have Zegras or Drysdale be? I really think that those two, you mentioned Comtois, especially hopefully he gets a decent extension this offseason. I could see those guys being the alternates, all three of them, for sure, down the road. And then, I mean, Zegras and Drysdale would be, I would think, front runners to being captain. I know they didn't play a full season between those two last year with everything going on. They sent him back down to the goals, and then of course the eligibility of the free agency and all that craziness with the number of games played and whatnot. But if Getzlaf comes back next season, they keep him as captain, for a year or two. I could definitely see those three being the makeup of the leadership of this team going forward, and that's what I really look at. That's the big thing. If Getzlaf doesn't come back, say he does retire for some reason, maybe they do, go with like a Manson or a Lindholm or a Fowler or something like that, as you discussed. But I wouldn't be against them giving it to one of those guys, or at least having them make up the leadership on the team. Eddie, like I said, Korea, they made captain really early on. So I'm not against that. I think it would be a good thing for the team. I think it would be signaling that the team making a change and going forward and going with the youth and all that. But I think in the end, maybe Getzlaf does come back for another year, and then they give it to one of them the following year. That's kind of what I think may happen.
Yeah, it gets like if he comes back, I'm not talking about stripping the captaincy away from him. I think he's a fantastic captain. I think he's one of the best in the league, and he'll always be a captain as long as he wants to come back. The whole question is he going to come back? Like, who knows? This team's in a rebuild state. They're not going to make the playoffs. I don't know if he's going to want to come back and maybe get a trade. He considered that this offseason, which was rare because he was so adamant about being prideful on one team and didn't want to trade. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how happy he is with management or fans are going to be in the building. Maybe he wants to play that one final season. He can have the fans in the building too. I know it's hard to play without fans. It's going to be kind of a wait and see. It was a really good question, though. I really like this question, and it's something we have to think about because Getzlaf's not going to be here forever, and eventually there's going to be someone else wearing that C for the Anaheim Ducks, and I just hope they can just do a good enough job as Getzlaf did because he's, like I said, he's probably one of the best captains in the league, and I think he's did a fantastic job at being that captain on the ice and off the ice, too.
Yeah, I agree. As far as the new logo thing, I'm with you on that. I think that I don't have anything against the current jerseys. I think if they did do a third, right, they have the orange, which I do like the orange and the black. It's cool. I kind of wish, for me, I wish that would be the home jersey. As far as the color scheme and everything, I wish that they would go with an orange and black type style with more orange. For the home jersey. That's kind of my take. Like we've talked about this before. We've had a lot of discussions about jerseys for the Ducks on this podcast. I really like the Stadium Series jersey. Not saying that they have it exactly like that or even exactly like the third, but something predominantly orange for the home jersey. I really wish the Ducks would do that. Keep the white for the away, and then, like you said, have the third be the Mighty Ducks logo with the purple being the predominant color on there. I really like that kind of setup. It just seems like we always fall back to black. And don't get me wrong, I like the black too, but it just, that's always what we go to. And I think having a third purple, like you mentioned, Eddie, is a good idea because it's still a dark color, but it's kind of an alternate to that black. And then the orange, my whole thing was, we talked about this when the Ducks were, in the playoffs and always contending every year, was, painting it orange like the Ducks used to have at the home games and having the orange towels and having fans wear orange and being Orange County. So I would like the home jerseys to be orange. Even if they shifted the third to the home one and whatever, I mean, I'd be okay with that, but the main thing is have the home be orange, the away be white, and the third be purple. That's just my opinion. I don't think it'll happen, but that's just my 2 cents on that, Eddie.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the like dark jerseys, like black jerseys. So I like black. I think it's like a classy color to wear. So I have no issue with that. That one jersey I had Ronald make me, it was awesome. It was like it was the old school logo with orange in it and the new school jersey. So it looked good. I would love to see something like that. I doubt it's going to happen. So I think, if anything, I know the owners like that orange and being part of Orange County. So if anything, I think our orange jersey or some kind of an orange jersey would be our main one coming in the upcoming future. But honestly, at this point too, as much as I love our current stuff, I have to realize that change is better. So if they do something different, I'm not gonna be all mad about that. But I want something a little bit different. Now the whole logo changing, I don't want any alterations to the logo. If you want to go that D style logo, keep it. Obviously the old school Mighty Ducks logo, keep that. But that Mighty Ducks logo is so iconic. I wouldn't want to see it game in, game out. I want to see it as, like I said, a retro jersey, a third jersey, and keep it just interesting. So when we do wear it, it's you're even more excited. We don't see that often, but we're going to get excited to see it. Maybe that's an issue too for the Ducks that needed to go in the future. It's kind of maybe thinking about changing their jersey up a little bit. Last time they did it, they won the cup. So maybe if they do it again, knock on wood, we can win the cup.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm with you. I don't want a whole new like rebranded logo or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about primary colors. If they change that up a little bit, and I like your idea of the purple with the Mighty Ducks is the primary one. And yeah, the one that Ronald made you was pretty badass with the Mighty Ducks logo on the new current black. I like that too. Will the team do it? Probably not, because every time we suggest stuff like that, or you guys suggest stuff like that, it doesn't go through. So I'm not thinking that that's going to happen. But I love this question. So it'll be very interesting when Getzlaff makes his decision, and then to see what the Ducks do at the captaincy. So that's something else to watch for this summer. But lastly, the best question. This is the most important one, by Jacob Loves Stella. Anyways, Jacob Loves Stella. He says, "Is a hot dog a sandwich?" I was like, when I saw this one, I started laughing. I love when you guys send us like questions that are just off the wall. And Eddie and I were talking about this. I'm like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Then it almost made me think, is a hamburger a sandwich? I'm like, wait a second. So I went to the Webster Dictionary, and they say that a sandwich is, quote, 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between, end quote. So by that definition, a hot dog would be a sandwich. But is it, Eddie? I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this.
Yeah. Okay. My first question is this Instagram handle, Jacob Loves Stella. Now, do you love Stella as your significant other, or do you have Stella as the beer? Because that's kind of an important question too. Because the Stella beer is great, but you have to drink it in the Stella glass. But hot dog, a sandwich, I don't know. I wanted to distinguish both of them as being different, because it should be different. Like a sandwich and a hot dog, it shouldn't be the same thing. And honestly, I haven't had a hot dog in, I'm gonna say, since it's been a year maybe. I changed up my diet, so I'm really particular on what I eat now. But I think after reading this question, I have to say a hot dog is not a sandwich. It's their own different entities. But this question is gonna make me have a hot dog now. I think I deserved a hot dog, and I think I've worked hard enough to get a hot dog. So Jacob, thank you for this question. This question was freaking awesome, though. It's the best question we had in a while. But yeah, I'm gonna get a hot dog because you suggested this question and you made me think about a hot dog. So I'm gonna get a hot dog. I'll post it on my social media. I'll tag DucksNPucks too. So if you need to follow it, you can see the hot dog that I'm gonna eat in your honor. And you know what? I'll add. I'll eat the hot dog with the Stella beer. There we go. Everyone's happy now.
There you go. I have to go with no, because I think it falls short. That's my whole thing. Like, you have slices of bread, right? You can go to a Subway or a Togo's or something like that, and you get the meat in there or whatever, but you don't get a quote-unquote hot dog, right, meat in the bread. So that's my thing. You get lettuce, you get cheese, you get slices of meat. You don't get that actual link, right, put in there. That's my whole thing. So I think because of that, it falls short. I think a hot dog is not a sandwich. I'm not opposed to it, but I mean, if we're going to be technical here, and you're right, I haven't had a hot dog in a while either. I think it doesn't. I think you got hamburgers, you got sandwiches, and you got hot dogs. And I think it's because of the meat that it doesn't qualify as a sandwich. You might say it's in sandwich bread, right? Or like a Subway type thing, but the way the hot dog quote unquote meat is, I think it doesn't qualify. But I thought it was a hilarious question, Eddie.
Yeah, and you have to have the perfect hot dog. And the perfect hot dog I had so far that I can recall, this place it's called Dog Haas. It's in Claremont, right off the freeway. It's just I'm not advertising them at all. It's just there's no advertising that they're free, but I'm just telling you, the last time I had a hot dog and the best one I had was from there. I don't know what they do, but they make their hot dogs just absolutely amazing, and I love it. I remember I had those hot dogs too when I get really drunk. I used to go to Ducks games. That guy with a little cart that makes those street dogs or whatever
with the bacon.
Yeah, those are pretty good too. I felt bad eating that, but I think Dog Haas and that guy with a little cart in front of Honda Center when we used to go to games, they have competition because those are like kind of the best hot dogs I had in my life. But you know what? This question's gonna make me want to get a hot dog, so I'll probably get one tomorrow. I think I can cheat like that. I've been playing a lot of hockey lately, so I have a lot of cardio coming in, so I can afford to at least eat unhealthy for a day.
Yeah, I'm with you. And wrapping it in bacon, those guys, I've bought some before leaving the Honda Center with the little cart out there. I highly recommend it. So hopefully next season, if things get somewhat more back to normal and you're leaving Honda Center, I would get one of those. I definitely recommend it. So with that, we'll wrap up the show. I hope you guys all have a happy and safe Memorial Weekend. Again, if you're in the military and serve right now, thank you. If you have family or friends, thank them as well. And we'll have another show. We'll keep doing shows throughout the summer. We'll have one before the regular draft, and we'll talk about, once we find out the Ducks are 1, 2, 3, or 4, where they're at and how that'll go. So we'll have another show covering that, and if any other news comes up. So with that, like I said, happy Memorial Weekend, and let's go Ducks.